Everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and here we are now with part 6 of this this beginners series I'm doing, and I can't believe how popular it is. So just to give you an idea of the time frame we're in, today is Sunday the 4th of June 2023. It is currently 8:15 at night, and I put out part 3 this morning or last night, I can't remember now. But basically there has been some questions asked, so I thought what I'll do with this beginner series, if you want to ask me questions, I will sort of every 3 or 4 videos or 5 or 6 or whatever, I will do like a Q&A. So you've asked your question and I will answer the question on here during this beginner series, which I think will be very, very helpful for you, the person that asked the question, and maybe for those that are a little shy or don't want to ask the question or didn't even think the question should be asked. So there we go. So first of all, Daryl asked the question, can I please show you how I deal with sprue nibs on fragile parts? And I think what Daryl's talking about is things like this. You've got this railing here, okay, which is very, very thin. This is part of the Scammell Commander kit, and it's very, very thin, and how you deal with sprue nibs on that. Now, I don't want to take that off the sprue yet, Daryl, because I'm not at that point where I need it. And wherever the instructions call it up, I'm sure it's way, way too early. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another part to show you basically how I deal with sprue nibs on thinner parts. And for that, we're going to use this one. This is the K sprue. And we're going to use this parts 4 and 5. Now these two parts are not called up in the instructions. I've actually mentioned it in part 2. You can see here there's nothing, and then all of a sudden these two arms appear. They're K4 and K5. Okay, they're obvious which is which because one's longer than the other. So this is how I deal. If you can imagine, these parts are really, really flimsy, and this is how I deal with them. So what I do, the first thing I do is come along and cut the parts out of the sprue. Okay, so now we're not dealing with separate parts, we're not dealing with a great big sprue, and we have these little parts here which are held on the sprue, as you can see. So we've got a seam line here to deal with, we've got sprue nibs here, we've got sprue nib there, sprue nibs in the middle, and sprue nib there. So we can come along and take away these little ejector tabs from the end. They're there to get it out the mould. Okay, and as I said, these parts, it's obvious where they go because one's a lot longer than the other, so it's going to be no problem. So we just get rid of them. Then what I do, I come along with a sanding stick and I sand away the sprue nibs. Notice I've still got it attached to the sprue, so I haven't got this flimsy little part. Now if these parts were, you know, 1/4 of the diameter, I'd be doing the same. But I'm using these parts as an example to show you. Please just imagine these parts were half the diameter or 1/4 of the diameter. So there we go, just sanding away the sprue nibs there at the end where those ejector tabs were. So that's all gone. That's all gone. And there we are. Okay? So that's that. Now we've got the seam lines to take care of. I've got this little skinny sander here which is no longer available, but I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something. And then we can go along there and remove the mould seam, or I think in America they call them the shut lines. Okay, and then go around here. And there we are. So yeah, these are what, I mean, Phil Flory calls it burring. A lot of people call it burring. I don't agree with the term burring because a burr is something that's caused by cutting, and you push up a burr around the edge, whatever means of cutting you're using. This is a feature on the part which is caused by the two mould halves coming together. More about mould halves in a minute because we're going to be answering Rob's question as well. So there we are. So that's that. Okay. In fact, I won't call this part 6. I'm going to call this Q&A and put it out tonight for you. So there we go. Let's call this beginners Q&A, and I'll put the video out tonight, the 4th of June 2023. So there we go. So that's that cleaned up. Now notice I've still got the part on the sprue. What we can do now, with the part still on the sprue, we can come along with our knife and we can scrape away the seam line on the inside. And as I say, remember, think about these parts being half their size. And then we can come in with our sprue cutters and cut away the part. And all we have to deal with is that little area where those sprue nibs were. So we can come with our knife and just cut away, or get rid of most of those sprue nibs, like so. Okay, and as I say, remember I showed you in, I think it was part 1 of this series, about how to do this. And then we can hold the part like that, go in with our sponge and remove our sprue nibs, like so. There we go, easy as pie. Just like that. Job done. And then we do the same on the other one. Come in with our, we've got a bit of a big lump there, so we'll cut that off. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Using the corner of my sanding stick just to remove the excess of the sprue nib. And for the sake of Daryl, if you sort of really want to see me do it on a really flimsy part, I think I covered it in the Apache build because there's lots of finicky parts on there. But if I didn't, keep watching the Scanwell build and I'll be doing it on there. Excuse me, I just I belched them while I was talking. How disgusting of me, eh? Filthy, dirty swine. So there we are. So that's how I deal with flimsy parts and get them off the sprue. Slide moulding. Rob's asked a question about slide moulding, so let's get that out of the way up there. I've got a sprue here which is going to be perfect to show you. Right, so we've talked about this before. Let's imagine this is the sprue as it comes out of the mould tool. Now I'm sure you all understand the actual mould tool is going to be 2 lumps of steel come together, and in that steel lump there are usually EDM'd orifices that are basically, you've got your sprue and all your parts, so it will basically be the female of this. So if you can imagine, this part here has been moulded in a mirror of itself, if you like, okay, and then this side here will be on the other side of the mould tool. So the mould tool comes together. If you think of something simple like a plastic cup, imagine this is a plastic cup. You would have a recessed hole in one side of the tool and you'd have a raised hole in the other side of the tool, and it would come together and inject plastic and it would make the plastic cup. Okay, so the plastic will go wherever the recess is. So this is just a load of fine recesses in a steel tool that's basically made to make this shape. So if you consider this part here, it's 2-dimensional, if you like. 1, 2. So the mould tool can come together, inject the plastic, come apart, and it will come out of the mould absolutely fine. Okay, so basically what's happening is the 2 halves of the mould come together like this. Plastic is injected generally into the middle. You can see there it's been injected into the middle. That's where they've cut it off in the factory. Okay, so plastic's been injected into the middle, and then the mould tool comes apart and the sprue either falls out, is grabbed by a robot, whatever. Okay, so that's the way it works. When it comes to slide moulding, you're adding a 3rd or 4th or 5th, 6th, whatever dimension to it. And what they're doing here, if you look at this part here, you can see that if I made a mould of that in this dimension, in this direction, it would just come away. But you can see this part here, this has lumps on the sides, it has a lump on the side there, it has detail on there, so there is no way that you can make that, have that tool and then come apart, because what it would do is rip those features off as it came out of the tool. So you have to have slide moulding. So what it is, Rob, is basically you'll have the mould tool come together and there will be two inserts in that tool that slide in, and you've also got, that's why there's this great big gap in this sprue here. So you have an insert that slides in there and an insert that slides in there, as well as the mould tool coming together there. So that is like a 4-dimensional moulding. So you've got the tool coming together, which is going to give you this feature here. It's going to give you the sides, and it's going to give you this recess in the back. You've got this one here, which will give you these features on the side, and you've got this one coming in here, which is going to give you those features there. And the same applies to all these parts. Okay, and that's what slide moulding is all about. You cannot make something like that just by doing this with the mould tool. You have to have this and this and this. So what will happen is the mould tool will close, bang, bang, those inserts will lock, plastic will be injected, the inserts will open, then the mould tool will open and the sprue will fall out. So that's how that works. So that's Rob's question answered. And finally, GK27. I think your name is George, isn't it? I think. I'm terrible with names, I'm sorry. Asked the question about these PE sanders. So these are the Infini PE sanders, and asked, do I use a guide when I cut them? So basically what you get is, if you buy the full set from Premium Hobbies, you'll get all these sanders that's in this box with this box as well. You won't get it in this colour because that's what he did specially for me to match my Mustang. But you'll get them in a silver grey or a black colour, whatever. And these are the PE sanders you can see here. And what you get is a packet of self-adhesive sheets, and I must find out if I can just get a 400 grit, because I always use 400 grit on my PE sanders. And this is basically the 400 grit sanding sheet, and you can see here it goes all the way up to 7,000, so it's the same as the Matador sanding sticks. I recommend when you are using this, always cut it from the top end, and then you'll have the number, because the number is at the bottom. Okay, the number is at the bottom of the sheet. You can see the 400 there, the 7,000 there. If I pull any more out, you will see on here we've got 5,000, 3,000, 2,000. You can see the number is always on the bottom. So always cut from the top, because if you cut the bottom off first, you'll lose what grit size it is. So he asked basically, do I use a guide when I cut them? Well, this is the 3mm sanding stick, and unfortunately at the moment I don't need to replace any of these, so I can't really show you how I do it. But basically what we're going to do, you get a rule, or you can use the PE sander itself and just come along and put the PE sander on there, and then you can use that and cut along the edge, or you can get a rule. So we've got the PE sander there, okay, and then we can cut a strip 3mm wide, and I'm going from the back because it helps to keep the blade a bit sharper. So we just come in, don't push too hard, just gently stroke till it comes away. There you go. You can see that's not quite parallel because I've done it on camera and I haven't been as careful as I should be. So there you go. So there's our 3mm wide strip. Now when you look at this, you can see that you could have it all the way down there, or you could just have it on the end there. Depends how many you want to go. What I do then is just cut it into lengths, and generally what I would normally do, not like I've done here, is cut it on an angle, because I know that that end is dead square. I cut that on an angle, have the angle going in. But at the moment, like I say, I don't need to change any of these, so I'm not going to change them. In fact, what I'll do is I'll change that one. There we go. So come in with a knife, get underneath it, just cut that glue away, okay, and just cut that away, and then you can generally roll the rest of the adhesive off on your finger. If it won't come away, get some tool cleaner, use Tamiya extra thin, whatever, cotton bud, in the tool cleaner. It's not wet. In the tool cleaner, there we go, it's wet now. And just wipe away that excess glue. Okay, so that's that done. And then we can come along here, as I say, I'm going to cut it on an angle, go away. I'll cut it on an angle so I know which end is which. And then I can peel the backing paper off, just like so. And then line up the front edge so it's nice and square on there. Hold that, let it go down, rub it, and there we go. And that's our 3mm PE sanding strip with a new bit of abrasive on there. And it's as simple as that, mate. I think your name is George. GK27, I'm sure your name is George. I've seen you on Sue's live streams. So there we go. And any excess bits and pieces you got left over, just put them back in the packet and they'll be there for a rainy day. So that's how I do that. These things to me are an absolute godsend, especially with the demise of the Flory Skinny sticks. I love the Flory Skinny standers, but they're all gone. So there we are. So basically that is that, guys. So you asked me the questions. I've done a little video for you. As I say, any more questions and I'll try and put them together like every 3, 4, 5, 6 videos, whatever, so we can have like a little Q&A session for you. So thank you for taking the time to ask the questions. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for the amazing comments that you're giving me on this series. You're really loving it, and I'm so chuffed that you're loving it. I'm proud to be making you all happy. So there we go. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.